Is your partner suddenly acting more distant and aloof? Or are you even noticing changes in your partner's behavior? Well, in this video, if this is something that's of concern to you and seemingly has started to happen out of the blue, we are going to talk about 5 subtle signs that an avoidant attachment style may be considering leaving a relationship. And we'll talk about what you can do and different conversations you can have to mitigate this and deal with this in a healthy way, should, of course, this be the right and healthiest relationship for you. We'll also cover how you can decide or define whether or not this is the healthiest relationship for you. And if you're not familiar, the avoidant attachment style is essentially the attachment style in a relationship that is most avoidant, the dismissive avoidant. They tend to be the ones that are a little bit slower to warm up. They kind of keep people at arm's length. And when they really attach to somebody, they often turn a little bit colder, seemingly all of a sudden or out of the blue, because their fears of attachment arise, where they deeply fear being seen, being known too much, and having to deal with that degree of vulnerability and engulfment. So I hope you enjoy this, and let me know if this is something you're concerned about in the comments down below. So we're going to go through 5 key signs and how to know what to sort of do next and what to say and how to communicate. And when it's time for you to be able to say, okay, you know what, it's time to focus on myself and take a step back. So the first sign is that the dismissive avoidant goes missing in texts, but that becomes a pattern. Okay. So it's common for dismissive avoidance when they feel overwhelmed, when they feel like there's a big change in their life, when a lot of stuff is going on, for them to kind of go underwater for a few days. But as a general rule, the normalcy of that as a dismissive avoidant is that becomes a very sporadic and impermanent way of communicating. So let's say, for example, that, you're a few months into dating somebody, or even a few years, and all of a sudden they kind of go missing, right? And they kind of go missing for 2-3 days. And, as a general rule, especially I think as we get further into relationships, it's fairly healthy to expect that there's some form of communication 6, if not 7 days a week. And especially in more committed romantic relationships. Generally, it's hey, even just a quick text every day. It's quite the standard to have, constant communication in a healthy way throughout the course of relationships. But I'm saying the dismissive avoidant goes missing for 3 days, and it's not a one-off, and it's not a, hey, I'm having a really hard time, I just need some space for a couple days to focus on myself and get through the next couple days, and I'm going to be back online soon. It's that going missing for 2-3 days at a time becomes a normal pattern in a relationship. Okay. And when we get to that point, even if that's the DA in, not the best version of themselves, they're struggling. It's also important, if you're on the receiving end of that, to evaluate, how do you feel when that happens? Right. And are you okay with that? And if not, you should communicate about it, see your needs through. And if it doesn't change, consider trying to end the relationship, right? If it's just really not working, because, there has to be sort of some kind of healthy communication and consistency in a relationship for it to work. So again, this isn't me saying dismissive avoidance are bad or anything like that. But sometimes, people are ready to invest in relationship, and sometimes people are not. And if there's this sort of constant norm of going underwater for a few days at a time, then that should be reevaluated. And here's the other thing too, by the way, if this is 2 months into dating, that's a different topic. If this is once there's a committed monogamous relationship, that's a big thing. Okay. So number 1, it goes missing in text messages. And that's the norm. It goes missing in text messages, phone calls, you don't see the person, and that's the new normal. Okay. That's happening every week, every other week. This is happening all the time in the relationship. Number 2, the dismissive avoidant isn't willing to put in the work and discuss challenging topics. Okay. And I'm saying when you discuss slightly challenging topics, so you say, hey, I feel hurt, I feel affected, I feel upset about something, I feel, these things are coming up. If they're not willing to meet you halfway. Okay. Now it's important that we're communicating in a healthy way. Obviously, if we're saying you never do this, you always do that, that's going to make anybody shut down. And dismissive avoidance tends to be really sensitive to criticism. But if you're saying, hey, I'm noticing in the relationship, I have a need for X, Y, Z, and it's really important to me. Can we work on it? And you're just seeing a total absence of validating the need, being present for the conversation, being willing to do something that shows that they're trying to take the action, even if they are imperfect at it, which we all will be when we're trying to make changes. If there's just no effort or energy or willingness to talk about the topic and it's just a shutting down, it's not a good sign. I mean, it's a really strong sign that dismissive avoidant is really withdrawing from the relationship and is on the way out. Number 3, that the dismissive avoidant partner or person you're dating is canceling plans more than they are making plans or showing up for them. Okay. If there's like this imbalance there, again, really important sign. And it's a sign that the person's on the way out themselves. And it's a sign that like you, if you're staying there in that situation and not feeling okay, you have to be like, hey, what in me is still staying, right? Like what in me, if this hurts me and I don't feel like the person's meeting me halfway at all, is still staying in this situation? Like, do I have a fear of being alone? Do I feel like I'm not good enough to meet somebody else? Like, and maybe those are things I should reprogram at my subconscious level of mind. I just wanted to pop in here and let you know we are doing a 7-day free trial to the All Access Membership Pass at PDS, which means you get access to literally everything inside of the school. And this includes the 4 live webinars I do with our students every single week. And on top of that, you get access to all of our different courses. We have over 55 different courses on relationships, communication, boundaries, emotional mastery, guilt and shame, learning your needs, so many different facets that are really important to master our lives and feel really good about our lives going forward. And last but not least, there's a daily community event. We have trained facilitators and coaches who are in there doing that work, showing up to support you on your journey every single day. Please join me on the other side. Come check it out. See if it's a fit for you. I'd love to see you there. Go ahead and sign up by clicking the link in the description box below. Anyways, number 4 is when you start asking for things in the relationship, like asking, hey, how are you? What's going on? What did you do this weekend? What have you been up to? And you're trying to like open the dialogue or conversation, and they give very closed answers, but that's consistent. So sometimes DAs, when they're feeling like their emotional bandwidth is shrunk, they'll kind of pull back and be closed. But I mean that like, this is a constant thing, right? So you've got the person constantly going, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I had a good weekend. It was fine. These very like one word or brief sentence answers, instead of being like, oh, I did this with my friends and then I did this. What did you do for the weekend? Like there's no back and forth. It's almost always coming to a closed answer. Sometimes this is a reflection of a DA being afraid. Sometimes this is a reflection of a DA being hurt by something and not talking about it. But at the end of the day, like if they can't then have a discussion about those things or work through those fears, it may be that person at this time on their journey is not ready for a romantic relationship. And if you are the DA in that situation, it's so important that if you're finding yourself in a lot of these patterns, that you take the time to like heal your heart and heal your subconscious wounds and fears about vulnerability, about connection, about commitment. Do some reprogramming work, learn your needs and how to communicate those needs to partners so you can still have your freedom and independence while having a healthy, committed relationship where you can show up at the same time. I think we think they're mutually exclusive things, but when you explore them in more detail, they're absolutely not. Anyway, so that's number 4. Number 5, that you are not getting somebody who opens up. They're not sharing personal things. They're not being vulnerable. You're not seeing that in moments at all in the relationship, or very, very, very infrequently. Part of moving the needle when we get closer and closer to somebody is moving the needle towards more vulnerability, understanding each other's inner worlds more. And if there's a total absence of that, it may be that the DA is not quite ready at this time to have a romantic partnership go further, to take the next steps, and the relationship may be on its way out as well. So I hope this gives you some insight. We get tons of questions about this. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions below. Thank you for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you haven't already, I would super appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video.